Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Temple of Geek podcast. My name is Ron, and I am joined by the lovely and beautiful. If you want to introduce yourself,
I'm Dana, and I'm a writer for Temple of Geek. I'm glad to be here.
awesome. We are both writers for Temple of Geek, and we are going to jump into the Doctor Strange multiverse of madness discussion released recently for Marvel Studios. Obviously, it was a big thing, release wide. Bringing full spoilers for this entire podcast. If you haven't yet watched the film, why
Yep.
haven't you yet watched the film? Turn around. If I could do so, create a portal, go to the theater, get your tickets, watch the film, watch the amazement that is Marvel Studios' Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. And then come back. I'll portal you back in, comment and discuss our podcast with you listeners out there. If this is your first time tuning in to the Temple of Geek podcast, we welcome you and embrace all the fans um, here, local, worldwide, whether East Coast, West Coast, worldwide, wherever you are. Thank you for listening in. The podcast has been around since 2012 and is hosted by a variety of geeks from the Temple of Geek team. Cover out everything from geek and pop culture news, events, cosplay, you name it. We are here. We are there for you. So again, we are here to talk Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness. We've got a lot to talk about today, from everything from uh, trailers to clips to appearances to just overwhelming chaos. We're going to talk chaos today. So I want to start by discussing everything, all the promotional material, what you know and what you're aware of uh, for the film prior to its coming out. So, Dana, I will hand the mic over to you. What were your initial impressions
Well,
and
I
feelings about the film before its release?
yeah yeah. I only watched like the first trailer. Like I really tried not to watch or like look at any promotional material because I didn't want to get spoiled in any way. And especially with Marvel, I've noticed that the closer that we get to like premieres, the more they ramp up, their trailers and they drop like scenes in those trailers that could be potentially spoilery. So I was like, I want to go in with nothing, just like clean slate. So yeah, that was me. Yeah, I didn't want to know too much. What about you?
Yeah, you know what? The same here. I think the same here. Yeah. I avoid it as much as I can from the internet. But even let's go a year back when it was announced. I forgot when, but when it was announced that everything from WandaVision to No Way Home, Spider-Man No Way Home, and up to this film would be like its own connective thread and tissue, and that it would be directed by Sam Raimi and have a
Mhm,
scarier tone to it. I was all in, and I have not
mhm.
watched, minus the trailer, I have not watched anything, read into anything else about it. All I know was, was getting into the excitement if into this movie, because of that's first and foremost Sam Raimi. Second of all, the horror
Mhm.
aspect of it, which was appealing to me, even though I'm not a horror movie fanatic myself.
Yes.
But yet, the twist in what compared to everything else that we've seen from Marvel that is put out, I thought that this would be a fresh new taste on our movie going palette. Um, and just jumping into it. I mean, I saw that initial trailer and I thought in my
Mhm.
mind, the cameos, the one cameo, which we all heard that voice, that iconic voice in there, when you
Yeah.
just see that side
Oh
profile
yes,
coming
yes,
in.
yes.
I'm like, are we? I mean, we'll
Yeah,
go more into it. We'll go into the more of those cameos, but
yeah.
but but like that in go ahead, go ahead, go
I
ahead.
was like, are
I know
we
we need to
doing
let it
this?
out, but
Are
go
we
ahead.
actually doing this? I was like, are we actually doing this? Are we doing like old school Professor X, like from the X-Men cartoon, like the 1990s cartoon? Are we really, like, I was trying super hard not to freak out because I was like, okay, I know they I know they gotta tease us, but like, come on. Yeah, it was.
For real, I think,
Oh my gosh,
okay,
I can't even put
so
into words like how exciting that was.
yeah, so for you listeners out there, just before we're recording this podcast, Dana and I had this little discussion, and I am a self-confessed and proud Star Trek geek myself as well too. So hearing Sir, I should have had the Sir in there, emphasizing the Sir, because he was knighted by the Queen, Sir Patrick Stewart on there.
Yes.
When you hear his voice, yet it wasn't confirmed until it was fun. It was funny because he leaked out to the press outlet that it was him, and I don't think Sir Patrick Stewart. Well, can you can't give him any repercussions? Come on, he's a legend already. Let him go with it. We already know there is no way hiding from that iconic voice. Whether it was
Hmm.
audio engineered or whatnot, you're like, there's no way you can adjust that. Come on, we know. Stop playing internet. Stop trying to hide Marvel Studios. We know what you did. Um, but that really brought out the kid in me
So, you know, the
because
question.
like you said, the X-Men.
Yeah.
Oh, just.
Yeah.
But go
Yeah.
ahead. You were
I
about to
mean,
ask.
and you know, it kind of begged the question like, okay, so yeah, like if they're gonna bring Professor X, like then who else were they gonna drop in this movie? Like if they're willing to like bring him on, then who else was gonna be in this movie? That's what I was thinking when I saw the trailer.
Oh man, I didn't even think about that going in. I just had to stop. I could not. I held off all theories, all thoughts in there because knowing where we are in this current phase of Marvel, I had no idea where we're gonna go. I had no idea what they were gonna do. I just knew from like reading bits and pieces here and there, and from other outlets and possible insiders that the cameos are huge, which they were. I would say the
Hmm.
cameos are huge in this film.
Hmm.
Um,
Yep.
and so and that's a thing. Let's I guess you know what since we're talking on that, let's just go right into those cameos. Um, so if you again if you're just tuned in into the podcast and listening to us again, you're listening to full on spoilers right here. So turn around, go watch the film if you haven't yet. But whew, that was a lot to take in
Yeah,
for and how they were
it
all
was.
introduced. I mean, let's go. Let's just preview be preface it be into those cameos by saying we got our first introduction or first sighting and mention of the Illuminati. Um, in this
Yes.
film. And so that was a thing that was a reaction. It gained a lot of reaction from my audience. I don't know about your
Yes.
experience, Dana, but the reaction from my audience were including myself, yelling, screaming, clapping, at all the appropriate moments
Yes.
during the film.
Oh yeah.
So go ahead, Dana. I'll let you do the introductions and take it do your part into introducing the cameos and,
Um.
and talking about them and your thoughts about them.
Yeah. So yeah. So as far as the Illuminati was concerned, like I knew that there was one person in particular that I was really excited to see, and I was like, if they don't have this person in the Illuminati, then I'm going to riot. So they did a beautiful reveal of going through Bolts and then Captain Carter and Captain Marvel, and then finally seeing Reed Richards. Like, I'm a huge Fantastic Four fan, so to finally get confirmation. And the fact that they did John Krasinski, like, that's a fan casting. Like, that's
That was
I literally, like,
absolute
my
fan casting.
yeah, like half my popcorn ended up on the floor because I almost lost I almost lost my shit.
And now
Yeah. Go ahead.
I
Yeah.
I I literally, it was almost expected to see that, but I still, obviously, going into this, I still wanted to hold my uh hold myself in place. And when that moment came in, um I literally jumped out of, okay, I have to say this. I was at a fan
Okay.
screening for Doctor
Yeah.
Strange in the Multiverse of Madness at the at the famous world famous El Capitan there in Hollywood. And no, no,
Um,
if for those people and for listeners out there who aren't aware or who haven't been to Hollywood, first of all, for any Disney film, it's a great experience, especially for Marvel fans to attend in person at the El Capitan. This is no plug, by the way. I'm just saying as a part of the fan experience. Um, the seats are pretty tight and pretty close to each other. So moving in and out and maneuvering through the seats is kind of like that scene of Neo
mhm.
in the Matrix where he's maneuvering through the crowd. So you kind of have to do that, wiggle your room and kind of do a little shimmy sham between each leg and whatnot. So going back to that scene when we see John Krasinski himself, from the internet to live action, John, I
Yeah.
literally jumped out my seat. I would probably have to apologize to whoever was sitting behind me and blocking their view. If you're listening to the podcast, like, I know the guy that's in this podcast and he was blocking my view. I apologize to that person. Uh, because I literally was like fist pumping, jumping, maybe about to fall over. I don't know. Um, but that was such a great moment and surely got a reaction from the fans. And it was so great to see the
Yeah.
Illuminati. Um, of course, for a fan, for I don't know if you, Dana, if you read comics. I do read comics, but our version. This was the Since we're obviously in the multiverse. This was the, as was alluded to in the film, the universe 838 version of their Illuminati, and possibly the MCU's
38.
adaptation of the Illuminati.
Yes.
We don't know if we're gonna see this again. So just for everybody listening, we saw, like you mentioned, Captain Carter, Captain Marvel, and everybody else you just mentioned. But the original Illuminati that we did see was Professor X, was Black Bolt, was Black Panther, was Iron Man, Reed
Mhm.
Richards, and I think I'm forgetting one more member of the Illuminati. Um, but it was that variation of it that was just so good to see and well adapted into that moment. So I'm happy to see those cameos, and for come on, Peggy Carter to come back,
Yeah.
and Haley Atwell to
It
be
was
invited
great.
back.
Um, yeah. That was awesome. And
It was
then, you know, to be like so excited and so elated, and then about maybe 5 to 10 minutes later, like absolute horror. And like, like absolute, like I think it was Captain Marvel that said, "We can handle your little witch," and I was like, "Oh no, no, you know you can't."
Ooh,
Yeah,
ooh,
yeah. So to
that
watch,
was, ooh,
you
that
know,
was hard.
to see, it was hard. Like to see Reed Richards, I was like, "Oh my god, amazing!" And then to see him spaghettified like 30 seconds later, just kind of hurt my soul.
I don't know if anybody's lactose. I feel sorry for anybody who was lactose intolerant because yeah, he was just turned into string cheese. That was hard
Yeah,
to see, but it was also nice. It was also nice to see um which Anson Mount. Anson Mount was a nice surprise to see because a show that is not really talked about among Marvel fans. We'll just say the Inhumans, which
um,
you know,
you
was
mean Inhumans? Yeah.
you know, it
Hmm.
it had hits, it had moments, and it was we don't, that's something we don't talk about, but for him to reprise his role in full on comic accurate costume comes out in his Avengers moment, an
Yeah.
Avengers like moment, with the rest of the members of the Illuminati with the wings that come out,
Hmm.
and having the lit fork on his forehead was just a nice nod to his comic book accurate depiction. Um, but
Yeah.
obviously in that next scene we see them facing off against Wanda. We could say Wanda taken over because
Yep.
Scarlet Witch had the dark hole taking over, being taken over by Scarlet. You know what I'm trying to say. Her body was
Yeah.
taken over by Scarlet Witch. That's what I'm trying to say.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Taking over
his
Adrian's
the
body.
way
Yeah.
that was graphic. Yeah,
It was
take
so
the
graphic.
way I'm like, oh, we're going there. Like I literally sat there. I'm like, oh, we're
Hmm.
definitely going there. This was teased as a horror movie, but I'm surprised at how far it went. Um, and
Yeah. I
Peggy
did
is saying
not
I can do this all
anticipate
day,
that
but
at
just 30
all.
seconds. I did not. I mean, I think it was kind of I oh I think it was alluded to in the zombies episode of Marvel Studios What If, because I think that Shield chopped
Yeah.
zombified Steve Rogers, Captain America in half. If there was that scene, so that was just
Yes.
a whole complete turnaround in this, where all of a sudden maybe our Peggy Carter figures will be half off. I don't know. I'm sorry. Was that too soon? Is that too soon? Too soon? Okay, I'll have to edit that out. Yeah, that's
That's
too soon. Maybe I'll edit that out.
terrible.
I'm
Wow.
sorry.
Wow. You should be ashamed of yourself.
I'm sorry. Sorry, thank you, Carter. I
But
love you,
like
Well, love you, Haley.
I was
Please come back.
I was a little bit frustrated though with how quickly Captain Marvel got killed though, because I'm like, okay, she got crushed by a statue, and something about that just didn't sit right with me because I was like, I've seen her being thrown through buildings, flying through spaceships and murking them, so to see her just simply crushed by a statue, I was like, no, that doesn't sit right. They could have done better.
They could have killed her off better. Is that what you're saying? No, I agree. Um, they,
I'd rather, yeah.
yeah, I agree with you
Go
on that.
ahead.
I mean, we're in our head canon, when somebody, even as an outsider, when you're watching this as a Marvel film, who's more of a casual fan into this, you're like, I thought Captain Marvel was supposed to be one of the strongest Avengers, and for her to be crushed by a statue
Mm.
also also didn't vibe with me. Like there was like you could come out. Come on. I'm waiting for I know we see your hand, but I know come on, move. So get up.
It,
Like get up out of there. Get do the Spider-Man
well,
thing where Spider-Man was like lifting and the fall out of the rubble, you know?
yeah,
Like
and
come on, I know you
I
can come out of that.
like somebody, I can't remember if I saw it on like TikTok or Reddit. Somebody said that Scarlet Witch had drained Captain Marvel of her power, and that's why she had been crushed so easily. But I feel like that's a cop out. I feel like that's a little bit of a cop out.
That's too much. That's too easy. That could be easily,
Yeah,
and I don't think
I don't think that.
even I don't think from a writing standpoint that would be too that would be too you know that would just completely erase everything and all our notions about how powerful she is, and even kind of like the powers behind Wanda
Hmm.
would it make sense. But we got an amazing crazy death scene. I could almost see that this movie based on its horror effects could borderline be rated R. Like they just
Yeah,
skirted the PG-13, pushed it to its
yeah.
edge, and it could have been easily been rated R.
Hmm. It really could have. I
But
mean,
let's
some of
talk.
those body horror scenes. Yeah,
No, twisting and turning, and obviously betrayed and
yeah.
portrayed by all the CGI and graphics, and the way Liz Olsen carried that
Hmm.
out. So let's talk about her character next.
Oh,
Liz Olsen, Wanda, Scarlet Witch.
yes,
Let's talk her evolution
yes.
going into this film. Ever since
Hmm.
her character first appeared in Age of no, I was gonna say Age of Ultron, but no, that's incorrect. She appeared as a post credit scene in Captain America: The Winter Soldier. So let go ahead,
Oh,
Dana,
I
if
forgot about
and
that.
give us your aspect and opinion on Liz Olsen and her character up to date. What are your
Wow.
thoughts?
I feel like the evolution. It's been beautiful to kind of watch that evolution of her learning about herself and her powers, like just being able to do like like telekinesis, like cheap parlor tricks, quote unquote. Um, and to watch her, go from, Age of Ultron, like she was powerful enough there with no training and no study whatsoever. And then to see her go and get get the dark holds and just learn from that. Like I can't even put into words like if she had been if she had gone under Agatha's wing and just decided to like partner with her, I feel like it would have been a really short movie. It wouldn't have been. I don't think there would have been.
Both of the crew would just
I
seem
don't think there would
OP,
have been an issue.
overpowered. At
Yeah,
that
Doctor
point, we could just
Strange
say,
too.
you know, but bye bye Kamartaj, bye bye Mystic Universe, bye bye America Chavez. Yeah, it would have been a whole. I could imagine a whole big disaster coming through.
Oh yeah, a hundred
But how do you
percent.
think? How do you think? How do you think? Go ahead.
Oh no, no, you go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna share my take on her character evolution myself. You know, uh, she obviously in
Hmm.
Age of Ultron was
Yeah.
first became a villain.
Hmm.
Um, part of the until she realized until I okay, I have to say that I had this discussion with a coworker of mine who also watched the film after its release.
Hmm.
And she
Yeah.
and this will go into my opinion that it was crazy how much of a turnaround, yet almost back to the same, yet almost. slightly a return back to her initial appearance when we first see her. That she goes from villain
Mhm.
to hero to villain again, um,
Mhm.
especially in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. Um, that it was exciting to see, Clinton Barton kind of help guide her and change her around. It's like once that famous line where he says, once you step out that door, you're an Avenger. And here she comes in this moment, ripping uh, Ultron Sentry bots all over the place, doing her thing, and then that last moment where she's face to face there with Ultron on that train, um, just ripping his mechanical heart out and saying that's how it felt, or that's what it feels like, or
Mhm.
whatever. And we see in that moment like somebody who's dealing with such anger about the loss of her brother, which was has been dealt with obviously throughout the evolution of her character in WandaVision. In WandaVision, dealing itself with the overall theme of dealing with grief, dealing with loss, dealing with the loss of Vision, dealing with the loss of what she experienced in Sokovia, the loss
Yeah.
of her family there, which was also addressed in this film.
Mhm.
Um, and just
Mhm.
her going through the whole motions of everything and taking that grief and empowering. This is, need to I need to be happy in the way that I need to be happy. I'm going to do everything I can to be happy, and if it takes seeing my kids to be happy, obviously Billy and Tommy to be happy, um, that's what it's gonna be. And she definitely went there for this film.
She
And
did.
um, in WandaVision, what I loved seeing her do, and this goes to Liz, this speaks on Liz Olson's range, is it was nice that that show took a direction where it went through each and every decade of television, from the 60s on.
Mhm.
So you get to see
Yeah.
how she fit in and took her character of Wanda to see how it would fit in into each decade. And then full out blown Scarlet Witch in WandaVision was just like, whew. And and the way
Yeah.
she carried her horror aspect into that. I mean, if I were to watch a horror film starring Liz Olsen,
Mhm.
I would be
Mhm.
scared. I would be scared. The way the way she when she was coming in to the Baxter Foundation, which was also a nice nod to the Fantastic
Yes.
Four, upon
Yes.
mention of that in the film.
Yes.
She walked in that hallway and in the tunnel scene, chasing Doctor Strange, and Christine and America Chavez.
Mhm.
I was nervous. I was scared. That was one of the coolest um, horror trope scenes in the film, a chase scene.
Mhm.
And oh, her going when you initially see her, she has these red eyes. Um, like I
Yeah.
do it because it's still early morning for me. She has these red eyes that are just glowing when she goes into the tunnel and just chasing them. And the way she walks like a zombie herself too, with a limp leg. And I'm just like, oh my god, like
Mhm.
run. And then I was uh talking about this with my brother too. He had the same he had a very similar experience at the theater where all is quiet during that scene, but at that moment when you see
Mhm.
Doctor Strange, Christine, and America Chavez just stand there not doing anything in the tunnel, just seeing what's going to happen. uh there's
Yes.
this one guy in the theater who just said, run bitch, run. like Like that's the moment that you that's the trigger moment. That's the horror effect. That's the common horror movie trope that you want to see. And it was so great to
Yeah.
see Liz Olsen carry herself. But going back, she goes back into that mother role. breaking out of the Scarlet
Mhm.
Witch and encountering her Wanda side of her, the 838 version of her. Um,
Mhm.
it was just nice to see that she's really taken her power to extreme. She's done a lot of damage, especially causing that damage and hurting people in um in Civil War. That she does, she's
Mhm.
taking everything with her. And I don't know if many people caught this. And Dana, you can chime in. Obviously, you can chime in on this. But I've been seeing on the internet
Yeah.
that maybe a lot of Liz Olsen, Wanda stans have been kind of distressed that she became the villain of this film. But if you paid attention,
I was
if you've been paying attention,
oh no. I
go ahead.
I've actually seen like the opposite on Twitter, because Twitter and on TikTok, it's not so much her becoming the villain. It's more a lot of, and this is coming from a lot of women, female TikTokers, but a lot of them are like, "Good for you, good for you," because nobody has addressed her trauma. None of the other Avengers have really reached out to
Hmm.
her. Like, I thought maybe, Clint would have reached out to her, even Doctor Strange. Nobody. So she was left to fester with all of that grief of
Hmm.
losing Vision. And then she goes and creates a town by magic and has to lose Vision again. And not only lose Vision again, but her children on top of that, after all
Hmm.
of the loss she's already compounded. Yeah, who wouldn't go dark? And who wouldn't want to
Yeah.
scream and rage at the world? So, no, as much as, like, and I'm speaking for myself and not for the people on TikTok, but as much as,
No, go
yeah,
ahead.
she's gone villain mode, I, and I'm not agreeing with what she's doing, but I understand it. I understand why she wants to do what she wants to do, because she's been denied and she's been shunted to the side, and now she wants what she wants, and nobody's going to stand in her way. So I get it. So I wasn't really distressed to see her as the villain, but I was kind of like, yeah, no, this makes sense.
Yeah, when you take a second look at it, and I was about to say this. There was a one line where in WandaVision, yeah, I was kind of watching it again because I remember hearing this particular line. I'm like, why was that line written in? There's a scene where Monica
Hmm.
Rambeau, um, who is obviously, we're gonna see her full on character yet, which I don't even
So
want to mention
excited.
yet because it hasn't been made official in the MCU. Obviously we know where her character is going. She mentioned she had this conversation with Wanda,
Hmm.
and Wanda said, maybe I am the villain. And I'm like, huh, that's a line that wasn't that I don't know if people caught up on that line. That was like, why was that written in there? I know maybe I'm going into speculation territory, and be it what and it is what it is. But I'm like, oh, what if Wanda? I asked myself this question, huh, Ron? What if Wanda was the actual villain? And
Hmm.
I was like, and here we go, Multiverse of Madness. She was the villain, but as you had eloquently mentioned, no one has dealt with
Hmm.
her grief. Which funny you mentioned that because I had that same exact conversation with a coworker as well too, and
Yeah.
it was her letting out all that grief, all
Hmm.
everything. Who wouldn't experience this anger and be like, f this, f the world. Nobody really cared about me and what I
Hmm.
went through. I have the event. With all the Avengers. I went out doing the superhero thing too, but I've been dealing with all this stuff, and I think it was I have yet to see whether or not some of these aspects of trauma are dealt with in the MCU, and it would be nice sooner or later to come to maybe see that being addressed. But for what it is in this
Mhm.
movie, it really took her had that strong effect on her that um
Yeah.
maybe this trauma and this can almost this could I could almost see it as we're talking about this now. I could almost see it as what if even though we're dealing with multiverses, what if um what if that Wanda and Scarlet like are basically almost two aspects of her, like
Yeah.
because and I'm not trying to say like Moon Knight's character and his the portrayal of DID, dissociative identity disorder, but what if that's
Mhm.
a way of one dealing with their trauma and trying to comfort the other. Like Wanda in
Yeah.
838 towards the end of the movie, tries to comfort and
Mhm.
accept the faults or look at the grievances at Scarlet Witch, which was brought out by way of America Chavez
Mhm.
basically said, "Hey, let me punch support her and I'll give Scarlet Witch what she wants. She wants to see her children. Okay, let's let her see her children."
Mhm.
And you almost see in
Yeah.
a very intimate moment those two that character interaction right there. So in a way, yeah, I understand her grief, her pain, and letting all that out from
Yeah.
there. So that was horrifying. That was traumatizing. Not traumatizing, but that was a comfort scene at the end to kind of have that closed out, and then Wanda obviously, taking
Mhm.
down Wundagore and essentially trying to essentially destroying the Darkhold. But yeah, did you want to add
Mhm.
or mention anything on top of that?
Yeah, I would probably say like I've seen speculation where a lot of people have said, the Darkhold is the thing that corrupted her, and I'm like, no. I mean, it just enhanced whatever pain she was feeling. It just enhanced, like, I would probably say that book took advantage of any grief that she had going already. And I think the
Mhm.
only thing that was gonna like shake her out of it was seeing her kids. And like you said, America Chavez opening that portal, she's like, okay, I'm gonna give you what you want. And to see, I think what the breaking point for her was, and it wasn't, taking America's powers, and it wasn't killing all of those people at Kamar-Taj. It was seeing her children terrified of her, like seeing her as the monster. And I think that's the part where she snapped out of it and is like, what have I become to get my children
Mhm.
back? And I think that just took her out of it for just enough time to be like, oh shit, like I fucked up, and this book didn't help me at all, and it took advantage of me. So it was nice to see like a sliver of like old Wanda just kind of break through and be like, okay, this book is evil, we got to destroy it in every single universe, and I'm going to take Wanda Core down with me. Which, to that point, I do not believe that Wanda is dead. There's no way, because a lot of people think that she died with the crumbling of Wanda Core. No, she's not dead. But what do you think? Do you think she died?
I,
In
I hope not. I really hope not because look for the look the visual team behind this put and visual and costume team put so much behind their efforts into making Wanda look good and full out Scarlet Witch for them to be have it destroyed in that moment. No, I want to see that costume again, or a later adaptation or a later improvement or adjustment to it in a future MCU film or feature. Um,
mm-hmm.
on Disney Plus
Yes.
if she makes her appearance there again. I have to see her costume again. That I mean, come on. Liz Olsen has through interviews and whatever outlets, she's had so many opinions about her outfits that she's been wearing. And obviously it's created almost a negative
Hmm.
stigma on her character in the past films and features about her character, that it's nice to finally see the Scarlet Witch costume, which obviously got revealed in WandaVision, and I was cheering at that moment too. I'm like, finally, we get to see a Scarlet Witch costume.
Yes.
We've been waiting for
It,
that
and
moment,
it was
and I was
beautiful.
like, yes, and it looked gorgeous. It looked beautiful, beautiful. Um, I kind of wish, speaking on the costume part, which will probably segue into our next talking point,
Hmm.
unless we have to mention anything else about this. But I kind of wish that they kind of kept the same style as in WandaVision. They did have the sleeveless shoulder on. I thought that would just create a good look overall. Um,
Hmm.
I think on that part, if they wanted to, they probably might have CGI'd some runes on her, or some witch casting spells on her to kind of add or enhance it. I just wish that I really the way that looked on screen though was really cool, really awesome on to see that.
Hmm.
I just wish they kept that aspect of it. But besides that, I guess segueing into our next topic, costumes in this film. What do you think about the costumes?
Like I said, Scarlet Witch's costume was beautiful. Like, to just kind of see it slowly go from like red and like transitioning almost into black, like it was almost black but not quite, was
Hmm.
amazing. And then let's touch upon Doctor Strange, because this is his movie. um, yeah, his costume looked amazing. I loved the use of the cloak of levitation, as always. Always getting him out of trouble, and just the use of color. It was beautiful as well. I I really want America Chavez's jean jacket for reasons. Like, they did a really good job of just making her look like a stereotypical like teenager, and I was like, I want the jean jacket for reasons, guys. So if I could just get that, that would be awesome.
I love that you mentioned that, because I think, this can eliminate some of the intimidation about, for anybody who's just getting into cosplay. I mean, look, you look at her costume and it's something that's just right out of the closet, or you can get that jean jacket, which was made through, again, no plug, her universe. Or you could
Mhm.
get a jean jacket out of your closet and kind of get some screenshots of America Chavez's outfit and make it your own. So I love that that
Mhm.
costume, obviously paying not homage to her look in the comics, yet adapting it to the film. Especially, what I loved about that the jean. Let's talk about that jean jacket itself. Um,
Mhm.
I love that they did make it their own, in that film,
They did.
because I think in the comics version, she has, and I'm kind of glad that they didn't include this, because I think it would have looked awkward on screen. Is that I know America Chavez in the comics also had a red hoodie, with the jean jacket as well too.
Mhm.
But I love the flames on the side of her, the flames on one side of her sleeve. They included the um, LGBTQ pin on it, a flag pin on it,
Yes,
which was really a nice nod to her characters.
it was.
So props to Marvel for that, for portraying that and having more inclusivity within the films, and obviously, having a Latina character in there, um, was really awesome. Was really just awesome to see. But that one tidbit, the one tidbit which has been along, which was a very powerful statement. You see in on the like one of the seams of her jacket is amor es amor. If people have caught that in the
Hmm.
film as part of her jacket. Um, yeah, Dana, I
Oh.
don't know if you want to speak on that. I could go off, I could riff off of that, but like that's that
Oh,
line amor es
I didn't
amor.
know anything about that.
Um,
What does that
oh, okay.
mean? I didn't. Yeah.
Um, okay, so amor es amor is
Hmm.
for people who don't speak Spanish. Amor es amor means translates into love is love. Um, so
Oh.
that was obviously that was a nice nod. Whether they were taking it from the famous I think it was Oscar winning speech. I'm not sure if it was Oscar, Golden Globe, a Grammy, or what award it
Oh.
was, but it was
Yeah. It
from
was. It
Love
was.
from Lin Manuel Miranda.
Manuel. Yeah. Yes. Yes. Yes.
What
When
was it from? I'm sorry.
he win an Oscar for what did was it like did he win like a Tony or something? And he said love is love is love is love. And it was part of his acceptance speech.
Something like that. Yeah,
Yeah.
correct. Yeah. It was something to that end, and I love that they brought in that touch to it from that. I think that was a nice nod. Uh, if it was a nod to Lin Manuel Miranda, or just taking the sentiment of that statement itself and adapting it to the film, especially when it applies to being inclusive and representation in the film, um,
Hmm.
of for America Chavez. And you know, going on going on Doctor Strange's costume. His was a great costume. Like I love the color contrast in their costume and the little details. I think that's the one thing that I really liked in this film is we got to see a lot of good close-ups of their costumes. Um, the cloak of you get to see more refined details in the cloak of levitation, which I love. That cloak of levitation,
Hmm.
props to the cloak of levitation. It's a non-gender conforming character. Like you can't even tell, okay, he, she, no, it's like it. It's just an it because it's an article of clothing, because sometimes you say, oh yeah, I love in the cloak of levitation she flew off, like, no, how do you know cloak of levitation is female?
Yeah.
um so I think the cloak of levitation definitely played had a nice role in the film. I'm just so sad we didn't get to see cloak of levitation played by itself in the credits. You know what I mean? Because cloak of levitation character,
Yeah. Yeah. Wow.
cloak of levitation was a character all on its own.
Yeah, like
Like I want to see
I
played by played
yeah,
by itself.
honestly, like I literally just imagine like if the cloak of levitation could speak, it's just going, "Oh my god, I got to save this dumbass again."
Look, 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 Steven, look what you got us into. Now I have a hole in my back. If we have didn't have if you didn't get
Yeah.
if you didn't get us into this mess in the first place, I wouldn't have this hole in my back. I wouldn't have the main passion. I would have still looking like nice crimson red, but no. Steven, you had to go and screw this up and mess with Wanda. You could have just given her kids. Um but anyway, yeah, that's I think we might have to transition from there. We're going off on a huge tangent, but it's great. Hey, this is great. I'm having fun
Yeah,
in this discussion.
me too.
Um, any issues, any qualms with the film? Like, did you have any other issues in the film? Any other critiques about the film itself?
I think it felt like it was a little bit too short, at least for me. And I think there wasn't enough of Doctor Strange's character development. I don't think there was really much character development other than it was kind of nice to see him care for somebody other than himself for a change. I will say that. I wanted to see more of America's and his friendship, especially now that she's staying at Carmitage and she's learning, and obviously it looks like she's going to stay in 616 for the foreseeable future. So I really wish we could have seen more of that. It could have just been, like a throwaway, not like a throwaway line, but it could have been a few more lines of like dialogue, just more like intimate conversations between those two. Because even though this film is called Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, it really felt more like a Scarlet Witch film than anything else, at least in my eyes. So I would have liked to have seen just a little bit more character development on his side. And like, how do you feel about that?
Yeah, I think, yeah. The only change that I could see to Doctor Strange's character was really the way he opened up and started to care about other people beside outside of himself. I think that was a theme going into
Mm-hmm.
this film too. That maybe spoke to character development was, are you happy?
Mm.
We heard that being addressed several times in this film, and here we see kind of two things about Doctor Strange is him, you know, while being a superhero and trying to save the universe, at the same time he's dealing with this kid, this America Chavez, who is 16, and much like her real life, who's like 16 years old, much like her probably real, who I think is the real age of Shoshi Gomez, which she did we'll probably bring her up maybe. Shoshi Gomez, which had
Mm-hmm.
a really great introduction to this MCU. Um, but him putting himself aside and being humbled and being especially being put in place by the other
Mm-hmm.
characters, whether that was just a part of a plot line to be humbled by the Illuminati when he was talked about by Reed Richards, really breaking down and blaming that alternate version um, of I think it wasn't Sinister Strange, it was I forgot what Supreme Strange.
Mm-hmm.
Um, in that sense, and really trying to address his faults in dealing with the multiverse. But also, he dropped the L word towards Christine. He
Yeah.
just went for the 143. He said, "I love you." Like, I
Yeah.
don't think those words have ever been mentioned in the MCU, and he's been the first one to um ever mention that. Even between the relationship between Cap and Steve Rogers and Peggy, um, yeah, or
Mm-hmm.
anybody else. We've seen romantic portrayals, but never the "I love you" words "I love you" ever mentioned before.
Mm-hmm.
So for someone of an ego-centric character to bring that out and say that to Christine, say I love you in every universe. I'm like, that's a sweet moment. That was a pretty sweet and tender
Yeah.
moment right there. Um,
It
for
was.
him, and I
Yeah.
think it means a lot because I think that's him coming to acceptance that I'll probably never be able to be with you in any universe, because that's a thing that's also addressing his happiness is to be with Christine, but he knows he can't.
Mm-hmm.
Yet he says it knowing that in every universe, if it's not successful in the 616, if it's not if they've had their complications in the 838, then he must be saying, in maybe every universe our relationship is complicated and not going to go anywhere or proceed from there. Um, so good for
Mhm.
him on that part. And then almost taking up
Yeah,
a fatherly, almost mentorship role, and I'm kind of liking that trend in the MCU.
me
Um,
too.
Going forward on that because uh, I see that. Um, a lot of people have had their opinions about you know Tony Stark being the dad of Peter Parker. I'm like, I don't. Okay, there's that father son relationship, but it's also kind of like a mentorship part of the uh, thing.
Yes.
You see that with Clinton Barton and Kate Bishop, and now I'm kind of starting to see that with Stephen
Mhm.
Strange and passing it on to America Chavez. So I kind of like it's almost like Marvel saying we're passing the torch now to the new
Yes.
folks coming in. Oh, Black Widow to Natasha to Yelena Belova. Even though they're quote
Mhm.
unquote sisters from the Red Room, that
Mhm.
that mentorship from there of who's going to be carrying on the mantles onto the next. Even though maybe I know I'm going to go into speculation and theory territory. I'll touch on that. We'll talk on that in a bit. But it's just nice to see that relationship between Doctor Strange having to care for America Chavez, even if not for her powers, but just the on-screen time and relationship that they've had with each other, which is really nice.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm really hoping
Um,
that they're not setting up for the same ending as Tony Stark for for Doctor Strange because I've
uh,
seen speculation where people are like that. I mean, it's a thing, just setting it up. So I really hope Steven just gets to retire and just have a happy life. He deserves happiness, just like Tony Stark got his happiness.
he
Please,
does.
oh my god.
He does.
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
see that. But play a bigger role overall in the MCU, and um, I hope whatever send off they give to him, unless he wants to stay in the MCU for as long. Look, Benedict Cumberbatch can stay whatever he wants. If Marvel wants to do what they want to do with his character in Benedict, they can do whatever they want to do with Benedict. And
Yeah, that's
that's
true.
much to be said to that. Um, uh, do you have
Mhm.
anything to say about Benedict Wong's character?
There wasn't enough of him. I thought it would have been really cool if he had ended up in in like at least one of the universes or had been shunted with them, but I understood why he wasn't. Um, and when I saw him essentially yeeted off of the mountain, I was distraught because I was like, they didn't kill off Wong, right? They're not going to do that. But then you think Wong is the Sorcerer Supreme, and then eventually Steven becomes Sorcerer Supreme. So I'm like, I'm just waiting. I feel like they're gonna kill him off. I really hope not, but we'll see. Just because I know at some point Steven is supposed to take that mantle, so how else is he gonna get it if Wong doesn't either pass it on or uh, unceremoniously die?
I know. I want to see more development from his character too. I think for whatever reason, um, he became the Sorcerer Supreme by a technicality. I think Doctor Strange might have mentioned that in the film, because of the blip. Um, he seems to be for now.
Such an asshole.
For now, for now, he seems to be a connecting thread, much like Nick
Mm-hmm.
Fury in these films, because he's
Mm-hmm.
appeared in the Shang-Chi. So there's that scene, and then he also appeared in Spider-Man: No Way Home.
Mm-hmm.
But obviously that was the lead into Doctor Strange: Multiverse of Madness. Um, so I am wanting to see more of his character. I kind of almost wish that we almost had saw more of his humor as well too. I know we got little uh, tidbits of that in this film. So especially from the wizardry side of things, and all the magic aspect between them two, that we are waiting for more development of their character. I don't know how that's gonna go down the road, but I
Hmm.
hope to see more development of their character. Um, but are there any topics that I know we could go on, but are there any things that you uh, would like to address about the film before we proceed on to the next topic?
Yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about like that fight between 616 Strange and was it Supreme Strange? Because that was beautiful. Like that
Sinister Strange.
fight with
Sinister.
was it Sinister Strange? Okay. That fight was so beautiful and so inventive with the music, and it just reminded me of
Right?
something that yeah, like something a magic user in like Dungeons and Dragons would do is utilize everything around them to their advantage. So I was like, that was like chef's kiss. Like whoever decided to write that in, it was amazing. And the visuals on it, our Strange having like the yellow, like the gold, and like almost warmth to his magic, and the other having like the blue, the cooler tones. It was just a phenomenal. I was just like, I need to go see the film again just for that particular scene. Like, I just want to dissect it. It was beautiful.
I absolutely love that scene. I think that's probably one of the
Hmm.
best scenes in the movie. I don't care what anybody else has to say. That the
Hmm.
music battle was so cool. It totally reminded me of the film Fantasia, the Disney film Fantasia, because I know that
Yes. Yeah.
there were scenes where I think there was also like music notes going into battle as well too. Don't remember if it was in that film, but that's kind of what it brought me
Hmm.
into as well too. And playing, I think it was what Johann Sebastian Bach's theme scores or
Yes.
compositions that were used
Yes.
in that part of the film. Um,
Yes. They were
so
using Bach
and
and
that was
Beethoven.
not.
Yeah.
I mean, it could have Bach and Beethoven. Okay. Um, so them carrying each other, like and the choices of the compositions that were used, so beautiful and so perfect because
Hmm.
those are the common themes we hear during like classic old war films. You know what I mean? Da, 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 da. And
Hmm.
when you hear that and see how it was like I'm like Doctor Strange is throwing musical notes as ninja stars. I'm like that is just so cool. Um, to see that on a page, and I can only imagine. I don't know if it's been featured in any comic or whatever, but if nobody has drawn that yet into a comic of having him go against the villain, battling out music notes with each other, let me see that on a comic book too, because yeah, that scene was
Yes.
absolutely gorgeous. Like it was almost a dance, but fighting each other at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And that particular piece that was being used, like the I can't remember. I think it's like Beethoven's Fifth for our Doctor Strange, for the 616 Strange. And the common theme of that piece of music is death knocking at your door. And I was like, that was perfect. Like,
It
I want to I what it
I can't.
like who decided to come up with that piece of music, to couple
I
in
feel
with
that scene
our
could
Doctor
have
Strange, because that
gone
was
on a little
amazing.
longer.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I
I
feel
could
like
have watched an
that scene
entire
could have
film of
gone
that.
on longer and made
Oh yeah.
right. Like that was a better. that was a
Yeah.
better musical scene than we got at the end as a post credit scene from Hawkeye. Sorry, I know that was fun to watch, but as far as it fitting into the rest of the thing, sorry.
Oh,
But that
yikes.
sorry, sorry. My that's my opinion. You can come at me. I'll give you my Twitter handle later. Um, I'll give listeners my Twitter handle. That's fine. I'm here for it. I'm here for it. Again, that's just my personal opinion. I had fun watching it. Just as it fit into the rest of the series, I don't know. Um, but as far as going into that scene was just beautiful. Um, so
Mhm.
let's bring it on to our last topic. Theories, speculations. This is the fun part where we get to see where we're gonna go on from here into the MCU and beyond. What are Dana? Let's go.
Oh my god. Wow, wow. Way to put me on the spot here. Um I think this may sound like a little bit of a cop out, but I think the fun part is not knowing where they're going to go. Like I'm on board with whatever ride they choose to give us at this point. I obviously we know that we're going to have another Doctor Strange movie. I mean, we saw in that like mid-credit scene that he has like the third eye, that there's going to be repercussions for like the dark hold. I'm so curious to know like just where he's going and what imminent danger they're going to have to face together. So I kind of like, as much as I have like theories, I don't want to speculate too much because I just want to be pleasantly surprised. And like, I don't know about you, but yeah, what are your theories and speculations going forward?
I have well the biggest thing that I'll just put the elephant in the room out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're really gonna go. I think this is really setting a good start to a setup for Secret Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and I think the fans really need to start to really pay big attention to America Chavez. She's one of the young ones in Marvel, but it's her power set that's probably gonna bridge everything together as somebody who's able to traverse between different universes with her powers. She could easily be bringing in the whole notion of Secret Wars and obviously have their own portals moment, like as much as we see in Endgame. It's funny that she creates, it's funny that that scene in Endgame was titled Portals, and she creates portals. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a moment where we'll get to see different worlds and different universes collide and bring up Secret Wars and seeing all these different alternate universes of characters and characters that have yet to be seen on screen in the MCU be brought to that moment. But obviously, you can't confirm anything yet. I don't work for Marvel. I don't have any insider knowledge into Marvel and what they're doing. They keep their stuff under wraps. I probably have a sniper just hearing our conversation right now. But hey, hi, sniper. Um, you know, um, I really think that she's gonna play a bigger role in the scheme of things. Um, I had a theory that I had an initial theory about Doctor Strange and especially what happened in that just
Mm.
at the end of that fight scene between him and Sinister Strange, that because of the rules of incursion of them going to universes and especially with Stephen Strange dream walking, using the Darkhold himself, and Sinister Strange also having access to the Darkhold, that there's no doubt that one of them could has knowledge of its workings. So I'm kind of wondering if initially what I thought was was Sinister Strange basically um, manifesting himself into the 616 Strange, and then you just see
Oh.
616 Strange's. You see, even though
Oh.
Sinister Strange's body fall off from um that broken oh my god,
That,
what do you call his house?
is it like a
I'm going
balcony?
blank. The name of Doctor Strange's house. This the dark, that dark sanctum sanctorum. So
Oh, yes, yes,
you
yes.
see him flying off of there and being impaled. So that kind of makes
Yeah.
me wonder, is that the 616 Strange in there? Even though at
I
the end
don't
of the
know.
even though later on it was revealed that is still alive in some way because the third eye is there. Third eye opens back up,
Yeah.
and then it's Sinister Strange that's taken over the 616 Stranger's body, and he's the one that interacts with Clea, who we see, who was
Oh,
nice. It was nice to see Clea at the end of the film.
that's interesting.
So
It
that's
was.
that's a thing.
Um,
I
yeah,
don't
because I
know if
mean,
I don't know.
he does have a photographic like we did
No, go
see
ahead.
like the dark holds start to be destroyed across the multiverse, but I mean he does have a photographic memory. They allude to it. So that is a very viable theory. Wow.
Yeah, so I don't know how that's gonna play out in the long run, or if if
I don't
that's
know.
a thing, because you know I can only imagine what's gonna happen when if that is the Sinister Strange in 616's body, because the costume is there, meeting with Clea
Mhm.
and going into the dark
Mhm.
dimension. Could this overall play an effect into the bigger grand scheme of things, where they bring Dormammu in, and that'll have an whole effect in the universe, um, and
I
change
don't
everything
know.
up. Um, but that's just one theory. Another thing that I'm seeing in is another thing I'm seeing is that he said, well, Doctor Strange said, I have the power of gods. We're dealing with, in the MCU now, we're obviously dealing with this trend of dealing with a whole big thing of gods and whatnot. Um,
Mhm.
we're dealing with a whole new level, whole new ball game in here. And if we're dealing with gods, I know this is a stretch. We already saw John Krasinski as a Fantastic Four, so whether or not we see him back in the role in the future will be up to obviously Marvel. Um, It'll be interesting to see if they do recast him or if he does become an alternate version. But if we're talking about the gods and level gods and things, I know this might be a stretch, might be a discussion for down the road. But I know that somebody in the
Mhm.
comics who deals with mystic powers, who deals with gods, who calls himself a god because of his powers, might be Doctor Doom, might be the next big bad.
Oh,
I would love to see him
oh,
as the next big bad.
that would be.
I know a lot.
Oh my god. I think you just kind of blew my mind a little bit there, because Doctor Doom is a whole other ball game. Oh my god.
Right.
Yeah.
He was a central villain in in the most uh, recent iteration of Secret Wars. So whether or not Marvel decides to
Hmm.
adapt that character, his character to
I
Secret Wars down
mean,
the road, when and
I'd
again when
I'd
and if
be
that's going to
really
happen,
interested to
it's
see
up to
that.
speculation at
Yeah.
this point. I would love to see it. Him battling it out with everybody else in all the different worlds and realms and whatnot. That would be a thing. Uh,
It would.
I know a lot of people are calling on Kang to be the next big bad, or even I've seen talks on social
Hmm.
media of Galactus being the next big bad.
Hmm.
Um, but for
Yes.
me personally, I hope it's Doctor Doom. But any other theories or speculations you might have?
Uh, Not off the top of my head because, like I said, I'm not really a hardcore comic book reader. So I'm just going into this like clean slate and just I'm just here for the ride, essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm here for the ride too. I love getting it. I love getting the speculation theories just because it creates the dialogue. I mean, especially for this film, we haven't had this much dialogue on a week to week basis that social media has had compared to WandaVision, where it's like WandaVision was the trending topic almost every single day when WandaVision was out.
Yeah.
And that was just really fun to see the fans engaged on social media to
Yeah.
talk about this type of stuff. But we're about to wrap it up. Any last concluding thoughts on the film or anything else that's come to mind that hasn't been addressed yet?
Uh, I'm just really excited to see, you know, because like I said, I do not believe that Wanda is dead. So I really am excited to see a Wanda post this movie. And I'm excited to see what that looks like for her. And I want to see her, I would like to see her come full circle and heal. That's what I would like to see. And then eventually, at some point, I would love to see Agatha coming back down the road. So that's what I'm looking forward to.
I think I think
Yeah.
I think I think it was greenlit to go. So it's just a matter of time
Yep.
until we see that. Um,
Yeah.
just my overall thoughts on the film. I love the horror take. I love the the bloodiness, the goriness, the twisting and turning of bodies and contorting everywhere, and the use of the
Uh,
common horror tropes, mirrors and glass, and scary chases and jump scares. So I love
mhm.
that. In the MCU, I hope it's kind of like a testing ground for what's to come. I'm excited for. I'm happy to see where Wanda takes a character next because it's like I thought I saw WandaVision as Prime, peak Liz Olsen, but I think she might be ready to take this further. She took the horror aspect really well. So I'm waiting to see where it goes. I'm waiting to see what they also do with other Marvel beings that haven't been addressed yet. Um, we've got Eternals, we've got
Yeah.
a Celestial in the ocean. We still got Skrulls lurking in the background.
Yep.
And everything else that hasn't been seen yet. So we're just waiting for everything to goes. But I'm on this with the ride for you. And Dana, anything else?
No, that's it for me. I'm so excited to see where Marvel goes. They have a plethora of comics to pull from, so many stories to tell, so many heroes that have yet to be seen. So I'm excited. So excited.
Yes, me too. Well, that probably concludes our podcast for this moment. So, Dana, where can Temple of Geek listeners and fans of the MCU and Whovians, where can they find you on the social media or on the internet?
On on the social media, you can find me on Twitter at a bit meddlesome and on Instagram with the same handle at a bit meddlesome.
Awesome, awesome. And for listeners to this podcast, you can find me Ron at that one what that I can't even say my own name. What? That one nerd Ron on Twitter and Instagram. So if you want to slide into my DMs or hit me up and argue or have a discussion about today's podcast or anything nerdy in general, keeping it clean, keeping it friendly to the fandoms, you can find me on both Twitter and Instagram with those handles. And for Temple of Geek, we are about to bounce out. I'm about to be like a 747 in jet. Maybe portal myself back into having breakfast because I haven't had breakfast yet. So, Dana from the East Coast, thank you very much for joining us on this podcast. I am so glad to have had this discussion with you and very much looking forward to the future of our discussions into the MCU in future
Marvel.
podcasts.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me. It was a blast.
Awesome, awesome. Well, fans, It was awesome having this discussion. So thank you for joining us in this podcast, and we hope to see you again soon. Thank you.